Being good, and I'll turn it right over to you.
I will take nominations for temporary chairman.
And nominate Bill Pate.
Any other nominations? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Pate, you're the temporary chairman.
Seems like old times. And it is quite an honor to be able to do that before I go home. And anyway, let's see, Mr. Raycock. I guess I'll read this since Ray always did. We're in phase 3 of Governor Cooper's lifted restrictions of Executive Order 163, and we will have no more than 25 people gathered in one place. Public may watch on the wayne.gov. Invocation this morning by Mr. Raycock, and the pledge will be done by Mr. Worrell. We will have the approval of minutes, and now the discussion of the agenda. Mr. Honeycutt.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. We would like to add one thing as a walk-on and place that under consent as consent number 12. Resolution authorizing the Wayne County Development Alliance to file a formal application for the North Carolina Rural Center Building Reuse Grant Program for $500,000 for business expansion related to Project Daffodil. And this is a project that Mark has been working on, but before we can apply to the state for the building reuse grant, we have to approve of the resolution by the Board of Commissioners, because there is a 5% match to the grant.
Okay. Do commissioners have any additional items to be placed on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on then. In the consent, we'll have an appointment committee this morning. Is that correct, Mr. Raycock?
Yes, sir. We have 3 that we need to vote on today and 1 that we would like to recommend to vote on at the next meeting,
Okay,
the November 10th meeting.
And in the consent agenda, we've got the applications for exclusions. Are those all
Yes,
good to
sir.
go?
They are.
Anybody want to go over those, or are we just? Okay. Ms. Spate, budget amendments.
Your first budget amendment begins on page 12 with Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. There are actually a couple of these in your packet, but these are unexpended funds at the end of the 1920 fiscal year. This money is pass-through funds, so when the program that received the grant has to pay that back, they pay it to us, and then we in turn pay it to the state. For services on aging, they have received an additional $3,694. This is for Eastern Carolina Council grant, and this is for their health insurance information program. You have your second Jcpc budget amendment, which is similar to the one I discussed before, and this payback is the amount of $5,075. For the health department, they've received additional funds in the amount of $28,282. This is for the immunization program, and this will help increase vaccination coverage during the COVID pandemic. However, I think it's for the flu vaccine. For Board of Elections, they've received grant funds from the North Carolina Community Foundation, and these are for operating expenses in the amount of $74,250. This will be used to conduct a safe, secure, and efficient election during the current pandemic.
Is that going to be enough to cover their expenses?
No, sir, and they've actually got additional funds coming from the state that are separate. It's actually additional CARES money that's separate that the county received. Is separate from what the county received. That's specific to Board of Elections.
Okay, thank you.
For the health department, they've received additional funds in the amount of $6,494.85, and this is for the East Point grant. For soil and water, they are requesting to increase the professional services line item by the amount of $10,000. There is a detailed attached memo. You've approved one budget amendment for $5,000. This is related to the stream restoration project with Withers Ravenel, and they have additional they need to expand the scope of their agreement with us to meet the regulations that the state has asked us to meet to clean up that project. And then we will pursue these costs with the vendor's insurance company. And that's all I have for you today.
Very good. Well, I guess the next 4 or 5 are all Barry.
We have called this the Very Great Show for the next
You might have
7.
just got staff here, Barry.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
The first one I have today is a final plat for Aaron's Place. This is Section 5. These are 9 lots that are located in Aaron's Place subdivision. It's right off of Leslie Road, which is in turn off of Highway 70 West out towards the Rosewood community. This is an extension of the existing street, Aaron's Place. All improvements are in place. The street is paved. We do have a built to standards letter from DOT. And the planning board has reviewed this request and is recommending approval. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. The next one I have is Bonnie Farms, Section 9. Again, this is a final plat. We had 3 lots. This is off of Genoa Road, just south of its intersection with Pecan Road. As before, this subdivision is complete, or the street is. All improvements are in place. We do have a built standards letter. They are adding the 3 lots, 21, 22, and 23, there on Clintwood Road. Planning board has reviewed this request and recommends approval.
Has the cul-de-sac been paved?
That is actually a temporary turnaround. They are going to be extending that street further back. So at that point, they will have a paved cul-de-sac, but at this point, it's just a temporary turnaround until they get to that point. Okay. Next one I have is Stonebridge, Section 1. This is also a final plat. These are 7 lots on Bartlett Road, about half a mile north of, or west, depending on which direction you're looking. They're off of Wayne Memorial. As you're heading out of town, you'll turn left on Bartlett Road. These are roadfront lots on Bartlett Road, so there were no improvements in terms of street construction that would need to take place here. This preliminary plat came before the board a few months ago, if you remember. With an internal street on the west side of Bartlett Road. They did have the 7 roadfront lots shown on that preliminary, so they're wanting to go ahead and move forward with those roadfront lots at this point and get those recorded. The planning board has reviewed this request and does recommend approval. Oh, and they do have, for your reference, with these roadfront lots, DOT did require shared driveways. So if you do see, there is a shared driveway with lots 1 and 2, and then one between lots 4 and 5, and then one across the street there on lots 6 and 7. So they do show those shared driveway easements. Those are on there, as I said, because DOT is requiring those now for roadfront lots. All right, the next one I have is Arthur's Creek. This is a preliminary plat, so there are no improvements in place at this point. It's just the beginning of the process before they start their detailed work. But Arthur's Creek has 74 lots on Charlie Braswell Road. If you're familiar with that area where Ingram Fields currently is, it's almost across the street from Ingram Fields. This is on 65.8 acres. There are no floodplains floodplain within the lots. It is zoned RA20, and so their average lot size is 29,707 with this subdivision. You can see the layout if you've got it in front of you with the access that comes in off of Charlie Braswell with several cul-de-sacs. They are stubbing out to property on the north, which eventually could circle back in and connect back into Charlie Braswell at a future time. The planning board has reviewed this request and does recommend approval. Okay. Green Acres. This is a preliminary plat. We had 23 lots. This is also on, on Charlie Braswell Road. This is actually just north of Rosewood Elementary. There are 23.34 acres on this site. There are no flood zones within any of the lots. They have kept that flood zone that's there in the very back within the open area or common area. This is in the village district, zoning district. The average lot size here is 23,442 square feet, and the planning board does recommend approval for this request.
With these two plants being there in Rosewood, any idea how it's going to impact the schools over there?
We send a copy of these to the school board so that they'll have that for their planning purposes in the future. We haven't heard any comments back from them, but we do send it to them so they'll be aware of what's going on. And then the last one I have, Hampshire Place. This again, as before, is a preliminary plat, so it is the start of the process. This is 13 lots on Old Kinley Road. It's just north of Boyette's Pond Road, right near the Johnston County line. This site is 8.19 acres. There are no floodplains, and this is not in a zoning district. This is, the average lot size for this is about 25,000 square feet. Planning board has reviewed this request and does recommend approval. If you see lot 6 and 7, there's kind of an area that kind of extends back behind there. Those are areas for septic. So they've tried to keep the septic on site, so they've kind of created those lots where they stretch out to take in those septic areas instead of doing actual off sites. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions?
All right, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Barry, I just like to issue an apology to you. We had an incident this past week, I think you're aware of, and I sent several people to talk to you.
Yes, no problem, no problem. I did help them, thank you.
I didn't see your response before I made the phone calls.
Oh, you're good, it's all good, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the third amendment to the Tower of Ground Space Lease. Mr. Luckett.
I will turn that to Andrew.
Good morning. What you have in front of you is the third amendment to the ground lease. This is our radio communication tower on 8th Street in Goldsboro. We currently have a lease with USL that it's set to expire, I believe, in spring of next year, so they want to go ahead and renew this. The terms, and I've been working with Brian Taylor on this as well. They want to add some equipment, and I've included the structural analysis that was completed for the tower as well. And so it would be an additional two 5-year terms. So basically a 10-year lease is what we were proposing right now. And then in working with Brian on our existing leases where we lease space from USL, we have a annual 5% increase in the license agreement, so we've also included that as well. As it stands now, it's just been stagnant, so each year it's the same. So working with Brian, we've decided to go ahead and build in that 5% increase. We have advertised this in the News Argus 30 days in advance, so if you approve it today, we can go ahead and get all this executed. I've included the draft third amendment as well as the structural analysis, and then the existing lease is also provided in your materials.
And the structural analysis says that we can,
It should be
it
fine.
will handle it.
And they paid for their own structural analysis. We didn't front the cost for any of that. And just for your information, I know this has come up before. We're leasing 2 other tower space in Seven Springs and Fremont from USL. We're coming off of those towers. I believe we're actually already off and in the process of getting all that equipment off with our new towers that we've built. So once we get all the equipment off and get all the pads deconstructed, then we'll be completely off everyone's towers and we'll be on our own towers.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Let's see here. Motion to approve canceling the November 3rd board meeting.
We do have that as a cancellation, but we are also looking at recessing this meeting until November 10th. And at November 10th, that's when we'll talk about the process to replace Ray C.
Well, that's the first thing. Well, then you got the other thing you just put on there, the WC Day 4.
Yeah, is the resolution that you have in front of you that would allow us to apply for a grant for building reuse, and it is the creation of 85 new jobs and about $4.9 million worth of new investment.
Great. Next up under new business is the procedures for filling the vacant seat of Ray Mayo.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In front of you is a proposed schedule that we worked on with Borden. Really, this is the same schedule that we did when replacing Commissioner Bell and Commissioner Gurley as well. One of the things we wanted to do was be consistent in that process.
And motion to approve next to Sayers Environmental. I said that right?
I will. I'll have Aaron and Brian come up and kind of explain the process that they went through and the recommendation. This is for debris removal, just having a contract for natural disaster. Not string cleaning.
Okay. You read my mind.
Yes, sir.
Already coming up? Yeah.
Yeah, it's up. Oh, we're at new business. Oh, yeah, we can do that at the regular meeting if you want.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm
That's fine.
sorry.
I had my mind, but I'm still in the consent agenda.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, guys. And then county manager's report, board of commissioners committee reports, closed session, board of commissioners information, and then again, we will recess this meeting until November 10th.
And do we need a closed session?
Yes, sir, we do.
Yes.
And for what reason?
Want to discuss the location or expansion of businesses in Wayne County, and another to just preserve attorney-client privilege.
All right, is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. We're in closed session.